The most neglected aspect of training is building load tolerance to tendons. Now, if you go to any gym, you will see how common tendon and joint issues are, especially among veteran training men. By that I mean those who have been at this for more than 10 years. If you've got tendon problems right now, then watch my next video where I will explain some highly effective training strategies for fixing or preventing that. Now, tendon issues tend to affect men much more than women because women are not so concerned about lifting heavier weights as men are. Now, a lot of fitness content currently available in online spaces advises men to increase the weight that they are lifting to achieve progressive overload. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, but the problem with this is that it eventually comes to a point that you have reached your body's load capacity, and when you start adding more weight after this point, this seriously increases the risk of injuries, and injuries tend to occur. And so does neglecting to build up tendon load tolerance while you are increasing the weight in your weight training. Now, most fitness channels and influencers never mention building tendon load tolerance. Quite rare that you actually see anyone talking about this. Now, tendons attach muscles to bones. Every time you perform a movement of any kind, it is the tendons that allow force transfer. Problem with tendons is that it takes time to build up sufficient load tolerance. If you keep increasing the weights that you lift too quickly, then you fail to develop efficient or adequate load tolerance in tendons, and eventually you will have injuries, and this is really common. Go to any gym, or training forum, and you'll see, this is true. Now, most bro science fitness gurus are advising men to aim to increase the weight every week, I've heard in some cases, and others even suggesting that you should be doing this every session. Shit advice from inexperienced fitness coaches will lead to injuries. This is bad advice. Now, when increasing the weight, it's best to do so gradually. After all, why are you in a hurry? You've got plenty of time, especially if you're young. And stay at that weight. When you've increased the weight, stay at that weight for a little time to build up tendon load tolerance before you increase the weight again. Where do you want to be years from now? Still training or slowing down and becoming old because you've got tendon or joint issues? No brainer, really. I'm nearly 52 years old and I've got no joint pain, no joint issues. My joints work as well as they did 30 years ago. This is because I trained tendon load tolerance and I was not impatient when increasing weight as a beginner. And progressive overload by increasing the weight is a beginner's method. Never forget this. I will cover real progressive overload to keep training challenging for decades in another video sometime in the future. Now, there's nothing wrong with increasing weight as a means of progressive overload, but it's got its limits in the long term. Optimum tendons allow for effective force transfer in movements and will increase your physical performance and keep you training at intense levels for years to come. Don't neglect tendon load tolerance. Subscribe and follow for more.